Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 8 of The Mountains We Climb. We've already been doing this for 2 months now. This is going to be the show's first 2-hour special. I've been so excited for this one. In each episode, we will be diving into the mind of someone who has overcome significant challenge and adversity in their life so we can see what is really possible and what it really takes. I'm your host, Jordan Kilpatrick-Smith, and today I'm going to be speaking with the embodiment of that, Jacob Haendel, survivor of locked-in syndrome, which is basically like a coma that you're conscious through, and the only documented case of recovery from stage 4 progressive leukoencephalopathy. Jake, thank you for being here with me.
Thank you so much, Ryan. I'm very excited.
Just before we start, I'd like to remind everyone that you can post your comments and questions live throughout the episodes in the comment section below this stream on my personal Facebook and on YouTube. I will be checking the other spaces, but if I don't get to it right away, then bear with me. Okay, so Jake, where does your story start?
Okay. Well, I grew up outside of Boston, Massachusetts, in an affluent community, a place where you would not think opiate use would run rampant. So it was very popular. In my high school, I began to smoke opiates. After training as a chef, I began to smoke heroin. So then, fast forward to May 21st, 2017, and I woke up in the morning feeling late for work. I was in a rush. It was common for me to smoke heroin and drive, which I know sounds insane, but actually it was so common, I was quite good at it. So I'm on the way to work, doing my usual routine, when I notice my driving is just off, and my voice is a little off, and I literally would say to myself, "Come on, Jake, pull it together." So I noticed blue lights in my rearview mirror, and I'm like, okay, yeah, this has happened to me before. Don't panic, you'll be fine. Put the stuff away.
The heroin away, that is?
Yeah, the heroin, the tinfoil, my smoking bin, my usual paraphernalia. So as the cop is walking to the window, I kind of have this brain freeze, literally. I couldn't move. I was like, I know what I need to do, but my body would not listen. So I'm trying to open the center console, hide the stuff, but I opened it. I couldn't put it in there. I finally got it in there, but I couldn't close it. So at this point, the cops at my window, because everything is visible. Before I even noticed it, it was like, what are you doing driving so recklessly and speeding? And then license registration. I could not find my wallet, and I was just kind of in a panic about the wallet. And so I'm reaching around the car erratically, and he's like, "Sir, stop moving around the car." And I knew what I was doing was very wrong for police. And I was probably scaring the shit out of this guy. But for some reason my brain would not stop. So I'm reaching everywhere. And he's literally "Stop, I will shoot you." So I'm just let me find my wallet. I'm so sorry. He's like, "What is that, heroin?" And I'm still just focus on this wallet. So my brain was already disconnecting from my body at this point. It was hard for me to kind of comprehend what was happening. I think it was a song that was just really high. And so anyway, about 8 other police cars show up, guns drawn, They yanked me out of the car aggressively. They put me into arrest. They searched the car. So anyway, I'm in the holding station. I'm like talking to the police. I'm like, I don't know what's wrong with me. Like, I'm not talking like myself. This is not me being high. Like, I'm actually not even high yet.
Right.
So they were like, yeah, whatever. Like, you can bail yourself out soon. You're being charged with like class substance, class A, reckless driving, a few other things. So I sat in a cell and then bailed myself out.
So when you were noticing that your brain and body were totally becoming disconnected and that you couldn't control yourself anymore, what were you thinking at that point?
Well, I was definitely in denial. I was kind of like something's wrong with me, but I did not want to admit it.
Right.
And like, I just kind of assumed it would pass. As I bailed myself out, I was walking different. I could still walk fine, but it was different. It was almost like I did not have a gyroscope. It was, yeah. So let's see. So that's May 21st. This went on for a few more days. It got worse. People started asking me, like, why are you talking like that? Why are you walking like that? And I'm just like, I don't know. I was accused of being drunk several times. I'm like, I don't know what's going on. I'm not drunk.
Mm-hmm.
So eventually, my wife was like, there's something wrong with you. You're going into the hospital. I'm like, no, I'm not. Give me one more day. I'm sure I'm fine. May 24th comes around. She makes me go. I admitted, like, yeah, I needed to go. As the ambulance was called, my immediate thought was, I gotta get high before I go to the hospital.
Yeah.
So I'm like going into the bathroom, which was a common place for me to use in privacy. And like I had this 5 gram bag that I could not open. My fingers were not working. So I actually bit it open and I accidentally spilled the entire package onto the envelope. So I was like, it was like, goddamn, like, whatever. The ambulance is here. I gotta go. Everything's wasted. Whatever. I get to the hospital. At first, they were like, they thought I was having a stroke. They checked me out. They were like, no, you're not having a stroke. We think you're fine. Then my wife said, no, listen to his voicemail. Something is really wrong. They played a recording, and the doctors were like, oh, wow. Yeah, something is wrong.
So Jake, what was your voice like at this point? Like what was wrong with it?
It kind of, so obviously my voice now is nothing like it was. It was like I had a much deeper voice, but it was kind of like I sounded as if I was deaf, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It was just like, it was obvious, like something was really different. So I get an emergency MRI, made me. I spent the night thinking, I never really thought it was that serious. I was like, I'll probably be hospitalized for like 2 days and then I'll be fine. Next morning, and I'm already going through significant heroin withdrawals. A team of neurologists just come in and they were very solemn, like I could immediately tell this was bad news.
Right.
And they were like, we're sorry to tell you, but you have a terminal progressive disease, acute progressive toxic leukoencephalopathy. They were like, basically, the word progressive means this will only get worse. They said it was possible I could survive, but unlikely, and basically gave me around 6 months to live.
And in that moment, so you got these doctors that come in, you're like, all right, something is seriously wrong here.
Yeah.
They tell you you have 6 months to live and that this disease is just going to progressively get worse. Do you remember what you were thinking or feeling when you got that news?
The literal thing I said, I think I may have even said it out loud. I said, a heavy sigh, I'm fucked. So I was just thinking, like, this is it. My life, this comes to this. I really fucked up. Like, there's nothing I can do about this. And my immediate thought was, I gotta get high because I'm feeling sick. Or it's just like insane. I think of this knowing what I know now, and I'm like, what the hell was I thinking?
Right.
So, I just want to say something. I'm getting messages right now that our cast is delayed, but we'll keep going.
Yes.
So, I was like, if I'm gonna die anyway, what's the point here? Like, why would I even need to get clean? I had a friend deliver me some heroin to the hospital. I actually ended up smoking it right in the hospital bed. A nurse walked in and was like, what the hell are you doing? And like, I was like, what's the point? And like, the whole team of neurology, as well as the state police, a few other people came in and they were like, you're clearly not getting this. Like, if you do not stop everything immediately, you will die within like a month. It'll make everything so much worse.
Right.
So, being an addict, I would try and rationalize things. So, I was told that this disease can only happen by inhalation. Ironically, I thought I was always being safer. So, it was kind of like a very ironic thing that this could only happen by that. So I literally told the doc, so this means I could smoke it. I mean, I could sniff it still, right? And like, they were like, no, you're not getting it. So I spent that day, May 25th, continuing to get high. In the evening, I came to the realization I knew what I needed to do. I needed to get clean. And even though I had a very slim chance of survival, and survival would be miserable, bedridden, who knows, I was like, I gotta get clean and fight, not only for myself, but for my family. And I knew what I needed to do. And May 26th was the first time I had sobriety. Yeah. So things continued to go downhill immediately. Within the first week, I could only walk with two people maximum assist. So basically, it'd be like being dragged down the hall
Within a week.
within the week. Yeah.
And sorry, for anyone who doesn't know what this disease is, which I'm assuming is going to be most people, right? Can you give us a brief rundown of what this disease was doing to your brain?
So this was destroying the white matter of my brain, which basically controls all motor function, coordination, speech, even thought process. Like critical thinking would slowly get worse. Really, the core parts of yourself were gonna wither away very rapidly. Yeah. So that did happen, like probably within a month. I could not even walk anymore. And then within a few months, I could not even sit in a wheelchair. My muscles became contracted. And like for people who don't know, my fingers, they kind of pointed downwards to the point like as if I was always clenching a fist. And my nail, yeah, like that. And my nails would actually dig into my palms. Within 4 months, it was very rare I could get out of bed, even with help. I started losing the ability to go to the bathroom. I would just go automatically. I wouldn't have any feeling. My voice, it went from like a very whisper-like tone to nothing. By December of 2017, on a feeding tube, ventilator, IV, catheter, kind of all life support measures and beginning to be locked in.
So
I
just
think,
before we
yeah,
jump in there, as your body was degrading, what was happening to your conscious mind? Like, was there any degradation there, or was it still running?
okay, this is a very rare thing that I think is only, I don't know. I can only speak to my own story, but I kept my sense of myself, my personality, the way I would think, even my internal voice, all was the same. I
Right.
mean, there was never a time where it did not feel like Jake. So I had these thoughts of like, as some days I would try and be positive. Some days were harder than others. Some days I was like, I am gonna die. I came to peace with things. It was very sad looking around at my family and not even being able to like express verbally or non-verbally or even signal to them. I really wanted to let them know, like, even though I'm in a lot of pain, it's okay. Like, don't worry about me.
Right. So how did you how did you manage your thoughts when you're in this position of basically complete helplessness as your body begins to degrade, and you have to stay conscious through that without being able to express it to anyone else?
Yeah. So, just so I'm clear, you're asking what I would think about.
Yeah, how did you manage emotions? What were you thinking? What did you tell yourself? All of that.
Okay. So in the beginning, I did not realize what locked-in syndrome even was. I was unaware for probably the first 2 weeks that people did not realize I was still quote unquote in there. I started noticing this when people would not even acknowledge me when the nurses would come into the room. Anyway, I would keep this internal monologue with myself. It was like I would be speaking in my own voice to like my brain that would answer me in my own voice in a deeper voice. And I would do everything from counting time, literally counting in a second to keep track of time. I would count to 1,000 over and over again. I started doing geography, just like kind of quizzing myself. My thought around this was like everything in my body is gone. The only thing I have is my mind. And I gotta like keep it active or else I might go. So I would do math problems, trivia, and really stupid stuff. Everything that a normal person would discuss in a given day. I would probably say this either to other people as if I was interjecting into the conversation or to myself.
Yeah.
I would use a lot of humor to be sarcastic as I am.
So as people were having a conversation around you and you said they didn't acknowledge you anymore, you were just this husk of a human that was lying there.
Yes.
You would, in your mind, join into their conversation as like a way to stay active, amongst other things.
One lady walked into my room one day. I believe she was a nurse's aide. I was in the neuro ICU at this point. I don't know why she would do this, but she walked into the room, shrugged her shoulders, and said, "I don't feel like brushing your teeth today," and walked out of the room. And I was kind of just like, all right, well, screw you then.
Yeah, absolutely.
And there would hear things like two people would be talking to themselves as they were working on me. They'd be like, one would be like, maybe we shouldn't talk in front of him. And the other would say, don't worry, he's brain dead anyway. He can't hear you.
What was
that? Interject and be like, thanks a lot, by the way, I hear everything.
Yeah. What was that like? I'm struggling to wrap my head around what that experience was like for you. Like to watch your body rapidly degrade to the point that you have no control over it, like none.
Yeah.
And then to be treated in that way with no one knowing that you are in this body.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, I know what you mean. Well, it's horribly depressing to watch yourself decline in that way. I mean, I remember looking at myself and being like, I'm sickened by the way I look.
Yeah.
I mean, I was losing weight. My hands are contracted. My ankles were negative 65 degrees. So for those of you who don't know, if you're like standing flat-footed and your foot is on the ground, you're in a neutral position. If you pull your foot upwards, you're positive 20 degrees. My feet were at a constant negative 65 degrees. It was almost like I was a ballerina. And like I was really just like, I felt so bad about myself, but I was like, you know, we can't even get too wrapped up in that at that point. It's just really about survival, which honestly, there were days where I was like, I was scared. Like, as I kept living, I was like, you know, they would tell me I would die. I kept living and I was scared I would be like this for eternity. That was actually when I was like, wow, there are things worse than death.
Yeah. Things.
Wrap your mind around that, I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you felt like you were going to be trapped in this for what would feel like an eternity, right? Because there's nothing to pass the time.
I was in this kind of purgatory of like the very closest you could be to death, but not quite death. And I thought it might be that way forever. Scary thought.
Yeah. How long did you end up being locked in for?
All right, this is where it's like a little confusing because I went through periods of fully locked in and virtually locked in. The difference there is when you're virtually locked in, you have a yes or no system. So you could either blink or somewhat blink for a way of communicating. So I went virtually locked in, back to virtually locked in, then back to locked in, then finally virtually locked in, and then nonverbal, which means I could use a leaderboard or the Mega B. Fully locked in was roughly 6 months.
So how long did that feel like for you?
50 years. Minutes felt like hours, hours felt like days, days felt like weeks to months. Yeah, it was pretty damn bad. Not gonna lie. On top of that, I was in extreme medical crisis and pain at all times.
What was the pain caused by? What was going on with your senses during all of this?
Okay, during the lockdown, the pain was being caused by what's known as autonomic storming, which, if you look up the definition, there are a variety of these horrible symptoms. So I would have extreme tachycardia, diaphoresis, hypothermia, muscle spasms, posturing, just like really bad stuff. And then I was hypersensitive to everything from light to wind to the mildest touch. I remember if someone walked by me too fast, it would create a breeze, and that breeze would burn my skin.
So not only did you have to suffer through this timeless state of purgatory, it was also filled with immense amounts of pain.
Yes, and I wonder if that somehow kept me occupied. I don't know.
Did you become used to the pain at any point, or was it?
And
Yeah.
I was always in severe pain, but at times it was unbearable. So there was like a kind of flat line of like, if you're looking at your standard medical chart of pain, I was always at a 10, but at times I was like at a 15.
Yeah, because I imagine in this state, pain is what most people understand to be pain is just kind of thrown out the window, right?
Yeah, so let me speak on that. The pain of being locked in and not being able to communicate was almost as worse, or if not worse, than the physical pain.
Yeah.
And I still try to like think about which was actually worse, and I don't know, because being locked in is really bad.
Yeah.
I realized during this, if I ever got better, I would never take anything for granted again.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So what did being locked in and spending all of this time with yourself, right? Because the only person you can communicate with is yourself. What did that do to your mental state, to your mental health, to your outlook on life?
Well, I went through all different phases of like, I'm gonna die, depressed, even optimism. I really went through the whole gamut of emotions, but really I spent an eternity of like only speaking with myself. And I learned a lot about myself during that time. And it was almost like the biggest therapy session one could ever have. I didn't do this consciously, but I ended up working out a lot of my reasons for depression, such as my mother's death and why I started abusing drugs and why I ended up in this. And I came to peace with a lot of it by talking back and forth with myself internally. Yeah.
Yeah. I just want to take a moment to acknowledge our chat here. We got Sophie, Jay, Patrick, Linda, David, Blair, Robin. Thank you guys so much for being here. If you guys have any questions that you would like asked during this, feel free to post them and we can talk about them live.
Thank you guys for being here.
So, Jake, okay, so one of the questions I wanted to ask you was, could you sleep?
Good question. I would not call it sleep. I would essentially pass out from these medical storming events. The autonomic storm would make my heart race so fast that it would literally, my sight would go black, and I would actually wonder, am I dead? but then I would wake up the next morning, do it all again. So it was never like a restful sleep, but it did not get.
Wow.
Does that make sense?
It does. I'm just trying to comprehend how close you were to death. You were like teetering on the edge in this literal hell.
So if you want, I can tell you a story about the closest I believe is possible for a human being to come to death but then come back.
I would very much like to hear that.
All right, so after, really about a month and a half of these autonomic storms at Mass General Hospital in Boston, they were like, well, he's not gonna die, I guess, so it's time to go to hospice so he can die. Like a comfort measures only, which is on they only will do like, measures to keep you comfortable before your death. So I got moved to home care hospice. One night the visiting nurse was like, he's dying, like he's turning blue. I think he only has hours left. It's time for you to call in family, say your goodbyes, which they had already done numerous times at Mass General. But I realized I don't know how I saw this, because I couldn't really move my eyes, but I noticed my chest was blue. And that was the first time I saw this, and I was like, wow, I might really be dying here. So, in this moment, I was like, I thought I was really gonna die, and I was okay with it. I was in a lot of pain. So, they were asking the nurse, like, how much longer do you think? He would say, probably within the hour. He did not know. I could hear him, obviously. Some family did come by to say goodbye. It's a complicated situation. Can't really get into details about that, but yeah, they were just like, and the ones that came, they were obviously crying and just like, it's okay, it's okay. So eventually, you know the sound when you're looking at a fluorescent light, it's almost like a static sound.
Say that again. When you're looking at what?
A fluorescent light,
Yes.
and it's like, it gets like staticky almost.
Yeah.
I started having this sound and it became like really, really loud. Like I could no longer hear other voices. It was only static. Around the same time, my pain began to float away. So I went from like extreme agony to like peaceful. It was very strange. And I was like, I said to myself, wow, this is what dying is like. Gotta be. And so I remember my eyes slowly began to close, almost like I could still see, but like the outermost layers, it was getting black, and eventually full darkness, and I guess fell asleep or passed out. I thought I was dead for sure, but I woke up in the morning in extreme pain. So I believe that was the moment where I was like about to cross over to the other side.
So the static noise started to take over, pain started to disappear, black started to come, and you were filled with this feeling of peace.
Yeah.
Was that peace anything that you had felt in like living life? Because I'm assuming you've had peaceful moments before, right? Or was this like a different kind of peace?
This was definitely different. I've had many peaceful moments, many very nice international trips on the ocean on boats, a variety of peaceful moments, but this was unlike anything else. Like the way I like to describe this was like I literally began to float away. The pain, it felt like it even felt like I was kind of floating away and then just darkness.
And so when you woke up the next day and you're back in all of this pain after having it all removed, do you remember what you thought at that point? Was there like a disappointment or
There was like shit. I'm clearly not gonna die here. But it just reaffirmed me maybe I'd be trapped forever again. And that was even scarier than death.
yeah. So not only did you have to go through this, but then there was also like this tease of death, right? It's like the sweet release, if you will, and then they pull you right back.
Yeah, I never wanted to die, but like I gave the peace with it and I was like, it is what it is. And like it was comforting to know, especially watching my mother die, that this might be the experience of death.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so when you woke up the next morning, were you grateful to be alive? Or was it more fear?
It was mixed feelings. There was some of both. Definitely a lot of fear.
Yeah. Um, one of the questions I wrote down before is this is kind of going in line with the sleep, and then I want to read some questions from the chat. Is did you ever get itchy?
Oh my God. Yes. Insanely itchy. And not only itchy, but I felt like, I needed to. So the rule of when you're immobilized and bedridden in the hospital is they're supposed to reposition you every 2 hours.
Right.
So they would do this by putting you on one side with either a wedge or a pillow. I felt like I needed to be moved every 30 seconds or else it was not comfortable. My father, who I'm sure is listening, he witnessed this a lot and actually realized I needed to be moved like a lot more frequently and did that and probably threw it his back doing it.
And what was it that showed him? How did he know?
So I think this was the period of time I'm referring to was when I was virtually locked in for the first time. So I was actually able to cry and scream and blink and you could just sense that I was not only in agony but I needed something. And then he would move me and I would temporarily like stop crying.
Right.
But then it would start again in 30 seconds and yeah, over and over again. But back to the itchiness. Yes, it's so annoying. And also, there are so many different types of pain I've never realized. I realize an itch you cannot scratch that you would have for over a day. That could be some of the most severe pain. That was awful.
Yeah. Okay, so going to the chat here.
Yeah.
How did your outlook on people and their kindness or meanness towards others in the world around them change? How did your outlook towards people and their behaviors change?
So, looking back at all this, I realized that, the mean comments I ever heard were definitely less like they were not as common, but they stuck out more. So like they were maybe 15% of the people made smug or mean remarks, not aware that I could hear them. But the other 85% of the people were genuinely caring, compassion, and especially as I recovered, I did not realize there was this amount of compassion in the world from complete strangers who knew nothing about me. So, I mean, it's changed a lot. And I would say for the better.
Yeah. And when someone is being mean or they're making smug comments or anything like that,
And that would only happen when I was locked in and they were unaware I could hear them.
yeah.
But yeah,
Did you learn to look at that in a different way than you think you would have before being locked in?
yeah, I did. One of the comments that really sticks out in my mind was a healthcare worker said, not to me, but to someone else around me, he's a fucking drug addict. He does not even deserve the bed. I was like, my initial thought was, what a bitch. Like, you're a healthcare worker, like, you're dealing with, like, a variety of either substance abuse or traumas. Like, how can you be in this profession and be thinking this? But, people have their own beliefs. For all I know, like, maybe our family member was a drug addict and did something bad to her. So that's why she has this look. So, like, I try and look at it from, like, the other point of view. Like, yeah, I'm not sure what I'm trying to say here, but
So, would I be right in saying that you learn to be a lot more empathetic towards people when they're coming across as harsh or rude or whatever they're going through?
I did. Yeah.
Awesome. We're going to come back to that question. Another question is, while you were in locked in, what was your greatest learning through self-reflection?
Why I was struggling with depression and, like, really learning how to no longer be depressed.
Can you talk more about that? Because that is a huge topic.
Yeah. When everything is taken away from you, like, literally, not like physical items, or like I lost my car, like I can no longer drive, but like the ability to eat solid food or breathe on your own or blink, and like everything is gone. You just realize how lucky you really were. And I would look back at my earlier life and I'd be like, God damn, I had it good. I really did. Like, I started thinking about, like, I was able-bodied, high-functioning, upper middle class, had a lot of friends. I could play sports. I could really do whatever I wanted. But I was, like, depressed. And, like, I just realized by going through this, I had so much going on. And there's, like, no time to waste. I'm being, like, stuck in your own thoughts of, like, of course you're gonna be sad about events that happen in your life, but like there is so much to be grateful for aside of your, like, physical abilities or disabilities for that matter.
Yeah. So in looking at your depression, it was through immense gratitude for what you had in life that
Yeah,
you were able to pull yourself out of that. Did I
yeah,
understand that right? Okay.
that's correct. And then as I began to recover and gain things, like, even like when I could eat pureed food, which is awful, especially in a hospital setting, and really gross, or thickened water, which is equally disgusting. These things were like, they were privileges. They were like, I am so lucky that I can even do that. Like gratitude as I recovered for every little thing I gained back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Blair asks, did you ever lose your memories?
None. They do not know why. There is really no medical explanation for this, but I never lost any of my memories. It was almost like I've even regained some interesting facts. I did an IQ test once. I was able to like manipulate my iPad by myself, and I actually have an higher IQ now than I did when I was in high school, which is like really weird to me. I attribute that just being stuck inside my own head and thinking for so long. But yeah, no loss of memory whatsoever.
That's a really interesting point about being stuck in your head, because often if we think about like people with really high IQs and like really, really high, they're often stuck in their heads all the time, right? Interesting. Frank asked, did your threshold for pain increase during your hospital stay?
Yeah. So as I would say I was definitely in chronic pain from probably October 2017 to July 2019, beyond chronic pain. Just like damn near at all times crying if I could. When I regained the ability to cry, talk, I was so grateful that I was able to talk, that I would not waste my time on crying, even though I really should have been because of the pain. So there were times where I would cry in extreme situation. For example, one day they come in and they're like, these doctors are like, so we got some bad news. Podiatry is coming to remove your big toenail later today. I'm like what? They're gonna remove my toenail? I'm like, are you gonna like put me to sleep? They're like, no.
What?
I'm like, are they gonna like numb it? They're like, put a lidocaine patch on. I'm like, are you serious? Like, what's that gonna do? Interesting fact, the skin under your toenails are the most sensitive parts of your body other than the penis. So they told me this and I was like, my God, like they were like, nothing we can do is really gonna help this. And I was just like, why? So I'm like, no, like you've been through worse. You can take it. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna need a blindfold. I'm gonna need some nurses to hold me down and like, please be gentle. I even wanted earplugs because they said they were gonna rip this off with pliers.
So they're literally just grabbing pliers and ripping your nail out.
Yes. So I mean, they did this and like, yeah, it was extreme pain. And I would have to say that my threshold, there's maybe something that would have like put me into tachycardia and made me possibly cold, but I was able to like do some deep breathing and calm down. Actually, the pain got much worse day by day after it was removed. They had to do Epsom salt baths every day for 16 days following, and then burn like you wouldn't believe. And then 6 months later, removed the other toenail.
And have they grown back since?
So it actually takes 2 years to grow back a nail if
Wow.
they're gonna grow back a toenail than his fingernail. They're about halfway.
Gotcha. So we're gonna ask one more question and then continue the story for time's
Sure.
sake. So this last question is, how was your faith or spiritual self changed during and afterwards?
My faith really never changed. My spiritual side did. I got more into believing there's more to life out there. I kind of I'm not very religious, but definitely believe in a higher power. Definitely believe in that there's more than what we can comprehend being out there. So, it's a hard question. I would say it did change, but I'm still figuring out how.
Yeah, awesome.
Yes.
So saving this question because this segues us nicely into where we're going, and it's, when did you first show signs of recovering, and what was your first sign?
Okay, so I know it was right around July 4th of 2018 because I was in Mass General. I already timed out of hospice. That's a long other story for another time. But back in Mass General, because they really didn't know what to do with me. They were like, he's not dying. He's just stuck. The reason I know it's July 4th is because I know you're in Canada. I'm not sure how familiar you are with Boston, but we got the Charles River and they shoot for the July fireworks right from the Charles River, like right next to Mass General. So I'm on the 22nd floor and I could hear them. I could not move my neck, so I couldn't see them, but I could hear them. So I knew it was around July 4th. Probably the next day, they were doing rounds, and a very special doctor noticed a minor movement in my right wrist and asked some of the other medical people, probably fellows, or who knows. There was a bunch of people on my daily round. They were like, "Do you see that? Look at his wrist." And they were like, "Yeah, what is that?" And this was like the first time I was acknowledged by a doctor who said, "Hey, I don't know if you can hear me, but do that again if you can." I tried. It was as if I was bench pressing 500 pounds. That's how hard I was trying to move my wrist. I was like, this is my one shot to get them to maybe see that I'm in here. So I'm like, oh my God, I can't do it. I'm trying. And then, oh my God, he's doing it. So that was a pivotal moment in the,
All right, sorry, hold on.
again.
So the first wrist movement was involuntary, right? It wasn't like you were trying to do it?
Well, yeah, I don't know if, because even the single wrist movement, it didn't feel like I was doing anything. So I'm not sure what was really going on.
Right. Okay, so you're like, this is my shot. I have been stuck in this for what feels like 50 years.
Yeah.
This has been crazy long. Finally, someone comes and acknowledges that, hey, Jake might actually still be in there.
Yeah.
You have to give it everything you have.
Everything I got.
And you're like,
And
I can't do it. And then you hear, holy shit.
Yeah. Like seconds later, oh my God, he's doing it. And I was like, the sigh of relief. I mean, it was like I was in a lot of pain then, but that dissipated. I was so excited. I was like, oh my God, this is amazing.
Yeah.
And again, like I still couldn't really do anything, but just the idea of maybe becoming unlocked
Yeah.
was like enough hope. And that gave me the drive that I still have today of anything is possible. And like at that moment I was like, I'm gonna recover. Literally at that moment, I was like, I know I'm going to recover. I had feelings and premonitions of this while I was locked in, but really at that moment, I was like, this actually is turning into reality.
Yeah.
So then from there, they're like, he needs to be under constant observation. I want the speech pathology unit here to try and like break through to him to see if he can say yes or no non-verbally. So within, I would say 5 days, maybe 1 week, they were like a very good privilege to have this speech pathologist. I'm still in touch with her today, and like I'm very lucky. I had her in my corner, so she was like working with me every day to get me to try and blink. Eventually, maybe on the fifth day, I started to blink. And they were like, very good, that'll be your no. And so I remember neurology was saying that's gotta be an involuntary response. And I heard this, I started blinking over and over again to be like, no, 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 no,
Yeah.
not voluntary. I would not blink. They would be like, do you know where you are? I would not blink. A series of these things. I remember them asking me if I knew who the president was, and I blinked. And they were like, well, he seems to like be following a conversation, but they still were unsure. They were like, the level of cognition can be intact. There's no way.
Yeah.
So then, the same day or the following day, they were like, we're gonna try have you stick out your tongue. Again, all my effort went into trying to do this. And I was like, God damn it, I can't do it. And then she's like, good, that's good enough. That's gonna be your yes. So then she was like, this is a letter board. She's like, I'm gonna point the letters. When you get to the right letter, you stick out your tongue, and that's how we'll talk. So essentially, over probably 20 minutes, I spelled out, I can hear you. And they were all like, wow, shocked. But like, at this point, lots of different doctors were poking their heads in all the time to just be like, this is so unusual. Like, they couldn't believe it. But then, they were like, we gotta get this guy to Spalding Rehabilitation. There's a premier rehab in Boston, in Charlestown. Um, they are very good with augmentative communication. They were like, they're some of the only people in the country that could break through and know what he's thinking. So they were like talking amongst themselves, and they were like, yeah, but he won't meet the requirements. He's got to do 3 hours of physical therapy a day and he can't even move. So I start blinking my eyes, thinking out my tongue like crazy. The speech therapist was there, was like, calm down, Jake. Do you want to spell something out? I still got my tongue. I spelled out, I can do 3 hours. And they were shocked. They were like, not only can he understand, but he's actually following along with our conversation. So at that point, they were like, we don't care. we gotta get them there no matter what. Thankfully, my complex care team, some of the best in the world, were able to make that happen. And that was the beginning of my insane recovery.
Yeah. So when you were able to communicate with people again,
Yeah.
what was that like for you?
Oh my God, huge. So at the same time, extremely frustrating because many nurses or other doctors had no idea what a letterboard was or how to use it. So, they will grab this thing, eh, excuse me, and they were like, trying to use it with me, but just in the wrong way. And like, I could not get what I wanted to say across.
Right.
But even so, it was still amazing. I could now say basic yes and no's like, are you hot? Are you cold? Are you thirsty? Are you tired? Are you in pain? Do you need medicine? I could answer this. And just being able to do that was freaking huge.
Yeah.
I mean, game changing, life changing.
Yeah. Amazing how something that the average person considers to be like, we don't even consider it, right? Just to be able to go yes or no. And that is life changing.
Yeah. I mean, and like I had no time for any personal conversations other than basic needs.
Right.
And even that was like such a gift. And I was like good with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
For then, it didn't get to a point where I was like, okay, I need to move on to the next level here.
Sorry, it did get to that point.
Yeah, where I was like, there's gotta be a better way.
Right.
Which I eventually learned that small thing.
Nice.
Yeah.
So just before we go and follow your journey at Spalding, we got a question. Prior to Locked In starting, so did you have the same level of determination then as you do now, or would you say that has largely improved?
Definitely improved. I was always determined if I was properly motivated, but obviously this got my priorities in order, and now I'm like extremely motivated on my recovery and other aspects of helping others, and sharing my story with you is actually part of my recovery.
Yeah. And I am so grateful, so blessed that we're here doing this and to be a part of your recovery.
I mean, same here, man. It's awesome.
So you get to Spalding. You were at this state-of-the-art facility for rehab.
Yeah, and I'm like, I immediately like knew I shouldn't be here. I'm not a rehab candidate. I'm so lucky and like beyond lucky that I'm this rare that they are willing to take me. That's a complicated story in itself, but for another time, I get there and I'm now in touch with many of my therapists on a personal level. They told me what their initial thoughts were when I arrived. They were like, "Oh God, what is this guy doing here? And what are we gonna even do with him? Like, just came off a hospice. He can't move. Like, there's another typical rehabilitation candidate." So the first step was communication. I mean, along with other things, obviously, but that was the main goal. And it started with eye gaze system.
Okay.
Do you know what that is?
No.
Okay, that's for nonverbal people that do not have much movement can track with their eyes.
Right.
Basically, they like have a laser pointer on one of their eyes and they can look on the computer screen and basically push a button with their eye.
That's pretty cool. So
Yeah.
the laser is like tracking your movement as you look at a screen. Is that right?
Is the opposite. The laser's on your eye.
So,
And the screen.
so you become like an X-Men.
Yeah.
Lasers.
Yeah. Unfortunately, my eyes couldn't track properly. And this time, that was like, wouldn't work at all. And so they were like, we're gonna try the only other alternative, which no one seems to be able to use because of cognition. And I'm hearing this, I'm like, well, perfect. Like, I have all my cognition. They explain this to me kind of like not a 5-year-old, but like maybe a teenager. And I'm like, yeah, I get this. Like, let's do it already. Within a few minutes, I got the hang of it. I was able to like spell out an entire paragraph.
Nice.
And basically, it was like, I can hear you. I've always been able to hear you. I am the same inside. I'm stuck in my body. I got all my memory, all my cognition, all my vocabulary. Please help me. And they were like, that was a holy shit moment. They were like, because even with like people with traumatic brain injuries, their cognition, even if it's like okay, is not like intact to my level. And they were like, wow, like he really knows everything.
Yeah.
And they were like, we gotta do everything we can with this guy. So, they started physical therapy right away too. And that was mainly me being mechanically lifted, like gym equipment and being run through the motions. And everything I did was extremely painful. This was a whole new level of pain. I thought I knew pain from being locked in, but when you're inactive for over a year, you just become like so used to like not moving that any movement would get gross. Sorry,
It's okay.
would hurt. So I mean, oddly enough, I was able at this point not only non-verbally communicate, but again, I could cry and scream. Like as they were doing this stuff to me, they knew like they would have to like clear out the gym. I was so loud and disruptive, and that they never really understood. So, are there any other things you want me to touch on about swallowing?
Yeah. So for anyone who doesn't know my past, I'm a registered kinesiologist. So I did rehab for a while, and that's basically what I went to school for. So this is really interesting to me to hear this. So following your recovery of movement, it started with blinking, tongue, controlled eye movement, and then
Yeah, I mean, it was minor wrist, blinking, tongue, minor tongue movement, and then minor eye tracking, then neck control.
right. And now the really interesting thing is that your recovery follows like a human infant, right? Like our body gains control in a set pattern that whether you're coming fresh into the world or you lost control and are regaining it, right?
Yeah, crazy.
Yeah.
And it really is like that.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
So I just want to read some comments because I think these are awesome. These really made me smile when I read them. Sophie says, I've literally never met a more motivated and determined person in my life. Jane says, you are an amazing human soul, Jake, courageous, inspiring, and a life teacher. Tony says, your willpower and emotional and mental strength are very inspiring.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, guys. Means a lot.
So, okay, so you get this method of communicating where It's way faster than just yes and no, and you can actually type out paragraphs.
Yeah.
And so you start doing this incredibly painful physical therapy. Now, is this where they started to like correct your feet position and your wrist position, all of that?
Yeah. So, I mean, do you know about passive and active movements?
But for people who don't, why don't you just share with everyone?
So basically, a passive movement, let's say someone is stretching you out for like your knee to see or your hamstrings. A passive movement would be how far they could push it. A active movement would be how far you could push it. So at this point, I had no active movement in really anything except minor of my neck. Like so minor. I can like kinda it's like I can't even mimic it. It was so slight. So yeah, they were passively doing a lot to my wrist, my hands, my ankles, my knees, really everything. There's a process called serial casting, and that's where they correct your ankle contracture. This is the only alternative to surgery. And it's not something that is widely done. I believe it should be widely done for whatever reason. It's a very hard skilled therapy they only do at like places like Spalding. I'm sure of the others, but yeah. So basically, they crank your ankle as hard as they can push it, jam it flat down into a foot plate. And then as you're in that position, someone else wraps a fiberglass and plaster cast around you to hold you in that position. And they do this every 7 days or so. And I mean, that is some of the most insane pain ever. Yeah.
Would it be similar to like muscle that's in like a constant cramped state being just like ripped or rather forcefully stretched?
Yeah, but I don't think that even can describe it.
True.
It would literally feel like my bones were breaking. On that same topic, my physical therapist, who might be listening, asked Spalding, she realized we might have better results if they could get some weight bearing through my ankles right before they did this process. So the idea was, do you know what a tilt table is?
Where they strap you to the table and then you can change the angle a bit?
Yeah. So, I've been horizontal for like a year. So they're telling me what's going to happen. They're like, we're only going to bring you up, 90 degrees is standing upright. They're like, we're only going to bring it to like 15 or 20. And honestly, this is gonna hurt. And I was like, I'm like, fine, like, this is what I gotta do. I'm so lucky to even be here. I'm gonna do it. I was willing to do anything at this point. So they bring me up to 15 or 20 degrees. Within the first 5 seconds, all the blood in my body rushed to my feet, and I literally spelled out on the Megabee communication board. I feel like my feet are in a blender. That was the feeling.
Yeah.
And they were purple and they were damn near blue. It was so painful. I would scream. They would have to bring in psychologists and clear the gym and try and like do these deep breathing exercises. They were monitoring my my heart rate, which was like through the roof. I was just freaking out. And like, I was actively being like, just calm down, like, breathe through it. I know this is what you got to do, but I really gonna stop screaming. Same thing with the hands, which was not serial casting, but similar. They would mold these custom splints and stretch of hands
Mm-hmm.
to the maximum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, well, I mean, awesome that it worked, not awesome that you had to go through that pain, right?
Yeah, the gains were modest, but very significant considering where I came from.
Yeah. Linda says you are Superman.
The same Iron Man.
Yeah. Sophie says the serial casting is one of the only times she saw you shed a tear.
Yeah, that's rough.
Mm-hmm. And John says,
She only witnessed that after the Spalding time. Yes, it
oh, okay.
continued like even after. But yeah, if she was there for the Spalding one, she probably would have cried herself. It was pretty tough to watch.
John says his dad says you were very smart and charming and super insightful.
Thank you, John's dad. Thank you very much.
So, okay. So you were locked in
Yeah.
for 6 months, felt like eternity. You're on death's doorstep. You cannot move your body. No one knows you're there. You can't communicate. Basically, hell on earth. You almost die. You come back. You're still in more pain. Eventually, you get a little bit of a wrist movement. Doctors are like, whoa, hang on. Here you are. You're like, this is my one shot. You give it everything you have. They're like, holy shit, he's in there. You develop this yes no system with your blinking, with your tongue. They take you to Spalding. You learn to use the Mega B. You can communicate a lot better. They start to fix your feet and your hands from these crazy positions.
Okay, so then, even though I was making progress, they're only in an acute facility, meaning there's only so long they can like keep you there for their roles and insurance roles. So they all wanted to keep me there. They were like, it's amazing. They advocated for me. I mean, more than anything, I think they advocate for all their patients, but there was a little extra, like, just because of how rare my case was. So they're like, yeah, been here for over 2 months. We gotta find some place for you to go. I'm like, oh my god, like I'm thinking like this just is like I'm starting to come back to life. Like figures I have to leave now. So because of like the rarity of my situation, I really did not meet any rehabilitation center criteria, which caused a huge challenge. The really only places I qualified for on paper were nursing home,
Right.
which is not what someone in recovery needs.
Yeah.
Long story short, they found a place in Western Massachusetts, which is like towards the Berkshire Mountains. They told me they had a very good speech pathologist there, and they would order the Mega B especially for me. They did that. I got there. As I arrived, the Mega B was on back order. I found out it would take 2 months to get there. So I was like, oh my god, what a nightmare. Not only that, they got my yes and no system in reverse.
Oh no.
The thumb I blinked meant yes, my tongue meant no. So everything I said for like the first 2 weeks was wrong in reverse. Anyway, it was a very difficult adjustment. But even before the Maccabee came, I got comfortable there. I felt like my rehab team, they can, like, what are we gonna do with this guy? Like, he can barely do anything. But they eventually saw me making progress. Again, small but significant. And probably gotta be mid-December. I started making sounds in speech therapy. Ooh, stuff like that. That was like a major moment. I think some people cried. And I was just like, oh my God, like, it's really happening.
Yeah.
By January, I was saying AEIOU was going bells down, and not only were they working on speech, but they were also working on my facial movements, which, as you can see, are still not so good. But literally they showed me what I looked like in a mirror. I was flat faced, no motion. I would try and they would be like, smile. It looked like I was having a stroke. I had not seen myself ever
Right.
since I'm logged in, and I got really sad. But I was like, it's alright. I'm gonna do these exercises and follow my care team's plan, and hopefully this will work. And then probably February, I can start saying things like, hello, how are you? I love you. Um, Goodbye,
What was the first word you said?
love, which is actually, I believe, the reason I fought through like all this. I had a lot of love from some people in my life, and I love really kept me alive, and it probably made me recover too.
I just got so many goosebumps hearing that. It's such an incredible force in the world that I think is so misunderstood. And yeah, not going to go off on a tangent, but it's
Okay.
amazing.
Anyway, probably within the same month of February 2019, I'm saying these words. One day, I was able to lift my left arm completely off the mat by myself. So no longer a passive stress that's all active
Nice.
in my. It was just all of a sudden one day, my occupational therapist did cry. She was amazing, and we are still in touch today. And we have like an insanely strong bond. I have like a huge bond with so many of my caretakers and therapists nowadays. Anyway, within the next few months, my whole body being able to move actively, they call this being anti-gravity, meaning like I could lift all my limbs, I could raise my back, I was speaking in sentences, I was 70% intelligible to a familiar ear. If I was talking to you for the first time, you would have no idea what I was saying.
Right.
Yeah, I have some funny speech therapy videos. You can get an idea of this. Anyway, things just kept getting better from there. And
And,
that's when, yeah,
no, go ahead.
and that's when my doctors, my care team, and my general were in such a disbelief. They were like, we're gonna bring him in here for a follow up. We're gonna do a joint appointment with all your Mass General guys so we can see this. And this was the first time I could really speak to them.
Yeah.
It was a crazy, emotional, happy appointment. it was like, they were just like, they were doing their exams, but they were like, talk to us. I had letters pre-written to them and thanking them for everything, because they were really the only ones that couldn't believe or did believe I could survive. Maybe not recover to this point, but they were always in my corner, always advocating and supportive. I wanted to, I had a feeling that I'd get there on this 2-hour ambulance ride and my speech would fall apart. So I wanted it pre-written so I could just be like, and just in case, I can't talk, you can read this. So anyway, they're like, well, this is amazing. We think we're gonna bring you back here, not only address some of your medical issues, which there are not many of anymore, but figure out how to get you to a more advanced rehab.
Yeah. So just for people listening, just to confirm this, you started speaking again 6 months ago.
When I'm in this appointment, yes.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So it's just, the whole story is just so incredible. And you're at the point now, and I'm gonna link your YouTube or your YouTube channel below this, and everyone listening, I really recommend you go watch it, because you're at a point right now, coming from a rehab perspective, you were just recovering so fast.
So fast.
Yeah.
I've been told I make progress on a weekly basis that some people take a year to achieve.
Yeah.
I'm reaching these milestones that could take like a year.
Yeah.
And it doesn't stop.
Yeah. And so one of the most recent ones that I saw you do was quadruped, right?
Yeah.
What was it like for you when you were able to lift yourself up? So for people that don't know, that's hands and knees, going on your hands and knees.
Okay, so funny story. In physical therapy, I have 2 physical therapists that work with me, and they were like, what do you want to do today? Because of the whole COVID-19 situation, the gyms are still off limits. So all therapy is done in room. So I was like, I would like to roll over on my stomach and go prone. They were like, okay, they were like, not sure you can even do that, because doing it on a firm mat is much different than a soft mattress. And they were like, yeah, let's see if you can screw yourself over and roll over. And I did, and they were like, wow, we did not expect that.
Yeah.
I'm getting on my stomach, and they're like new strangers about. I had trouble, but I got there eventually. And then they were like, one of the guys was like, I want to try something with you, and we will help you. They were like, we're gonna try quadruped, which I never heard this term before. And they were like, we're gonna get you on your hands and knees. I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, I don't even know how to mechanically do this anymore. Literally, I have no idea. My muscle planning has been wiped out. My coordination wiped out. I'm like, I gotta relearn everything, being dragged through the motion to really get an understanding of what I need to do.
Mm-hmm.
So they were like, get their elbows tucked in, then push up. They push up, they're like, bend your knees. Oh my God, you're doing it. We didn't even really help that much. And they're like, okay, now hold it. So I probably held it for maybe 45 seconds and went back down the flat. They were like amazed. So they were like, that's enough for today. Like,
Yeah.
that was a lot. And I was like, no, I want to do it again. They're like, come on, Jake, calm down. Like, let me do it again. So I asked them, I was like, is it something I could do on my own? And I misunderstood what they said. Thought they said yes, but what they really meant is I could start rolling on my side each way. So I took this as like, yeah, I can do quadruped on my own. And by the way, I do all this video editing by myself and recording, and I'm like, I'm gonna do quadruped by myself. Like I'm really funny video because, I'm getting in quadruped, look back at the camera, and realize it can't see me. I'm like, fuck, I have to like push the table away, enable voice control, like a whole series of events. So tiring to do, but eventually get the right shot. I edited it all together. My therapist saw this video over the weekend and was like, what the hell is he doing? We did not say this was okay. But yeah, I mean, they were like, we're glad you did it, but like, thank God you're the same patient because, many are impulsive.
Hmm.
So new things like that are happening all the time. The next step would actually be, quadruped is like the first thing that babies learn when they're gonna start walking, which I did not know. So the next step would be to get me on my knees on the ground and pull myself up on the side of bed.
Hmm. That's going to be so exciting.
Yeah,
How are you feeling for that?
I can't wait. I'm ready.
Nice.
We're also doing like a variety of other things in speech, occupational therapy. There's always something new every week,
Yeah.
which is very unusual. My whole case is unusual. Even my recovery from COVID-19 is unusual. Everything about me.
Yeah. So, um, there's a couple of things I want to read out from the comments, a few questions I want to ask you just before we begin to wrap up here. So, from Blair, what are your goals for your life? What is one thing outside of rehab that you would like to achieve?
So I have a handful of key goals. One of my strongest one is around substance abuse. And you know, substance abuse is really not the problem, it's the symptom. It's like the key is finding what is wrong inside yourself that makes you want to abuse substances. And so I want to help in all areas of that. Mainly, well, I shouldn't even say mainly. I want to prevent it from starting. I want to help those that are active users kind of understand that there's more to life than this because I know how easy it is. They get wrapped up into it and forget. And I feel like I am a good reminder of that, of like
Yeah.
what could go wrong. Not to mention, I never realized by smoking this, of course, I knew I'm going to overdose and die, but I never imagined like there was all these other in between things that could happen. I also want to help motivate others in physical recovery of all sorts, like those who are in a car accident or wanting to give up, which I've seen in front of my own eyes numerous times, even at Spalding. It really is tragic and heartbreaking. and I want to be able to kind of be like a rehab coach. I don't know if that even exists, but I want to start it.
Yeah.
I feel like if I can push through this, it's possible for anyone to push through. And once you're like at the next level, recovery falls into place. I also want to do motivational speaking. I want to do patient advocacy to the healthcare system in the U.S. and around the world are flawed. There's a lot of stuff I want to do.
Yeah.
And then also, I haven't been too public on this yet, but I have plans of actually running the Boston Marathon in 2025, sponsored by Mass General. And like, I'm gonna do it.
Yeah.
I really am.
I have total faith in you, and I absolutely want to be there.
Even if I have to limp it, I will limp it.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I really want to take a second and go back and acknowledge the first thing you said there about addiction treatments, right? Where the issue is not the drug use, right? That is a symptom of something else that's going.
Yeah.
And this is like so close to my heart because this is why I left my field to go and do what I did, right? Because I saw the same thing for obesity and diabetes. And I think that we as helpers, wherever we're coming from, need to understand that whatever it is that we're seeing is often just a symptom, and we need to be willing and curious to dig deeper and find out what's really going on here.
You've got to dig deep. And like that's what I did while I was locked in.
Yeah.
And I now understand myself better and I can relate it to others. And like I feel like maybe I can break through and prevent these bad habits and cycles in others.
Yeah. Oh, I think we'll have lots of amazing discussions on this after going forward. Blair asks again, do you have a motto or mantra that has inspired you or that you live by? We're running out of time, just so you know.
I know, I've seen that. Well, at first it was defy the odds. Then it turned into like, you can do it. And then Spalding's motto was find your strength, which I definitely took to heart. That place really is so close to my heart. They laid the foundation for this whole recovery. So like I'm still developing my mottos.
Yeah.
But those are some of them.
Nice. I'm going to go down and read the comments because there's a whole bunch here. Jane says, I've read The Purpose of Life is to Learn Love. Your acknowledgement that it was love that got you through is affirmation of this belief. It's beautiful. Thank you for sharing. She also says, it's unbelievable that it's only been 6 months and the conversation flows, is logical and insightful.
All in one thing there. It's really when I've been talking, I made my first sound in December 18, then that was January 19. So that 6 months was from the time I began talking to my Mass General appointment. I just want to clarify that.
Right.
So I've really been speaking. My first sound was like about 17 months ago.
Oh, okay. I getcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Still, that's an incredible progress.
Yeah.
Tony says, wow, progress is unbelievable, insane. We got some people saying hello. Rico says, you're an absolute inspiration. You're amazing. Bernadette says, you are such a strong person. She admires you.
Hey, you, everybody.
Sophie says, you're so inspiring. We need more people like you in this world. This is going to be the last question that I ask here is, do you believe this happened to show you purpose? Do you believe, actually, I'm going to change this slightly. Do you believe this happened to you or for you?
No, I don't really know. I believe such a question. I believe that things do happen for a reason. I don't know why it happened, but I can say that it's so weird to say this, especially in life. In a way, I'm very happy it did happen. I've been given a gift of like, even though I'm still struggling with like these symbols of death, I've been put in a position where I can like make something good and like, yeah. So I'm happy it happened. It's so weird to say, but yeah.
I think this is my last question for you, is what advice would you give to someone who finds themselves stuck or is feeling stuck in their situation?
Yeah, can give you some insight on why it's not that bad and how it could be worse.
Right.
I mean, I just think like I would get overly caught up in either work back when I was a chef or like, personal issues. And like, you really gotta look at the bigger picture here. There are so many other things in life to focus on. If you are like truly that unhappy, change your environment. I mean, it's really up to you, especially if you have the ability to be mobile. Like, I can't change my environment, but I make the best of it. But really, like, I'm open for anyone struggling with anything. I could maybe offer advice.
Nice. And where can people find you for that?
So on the info section of my YouTube page, there is an email. I will definitely respond. Give me some time because I've been getting a lot. But yeah.
Nice. So on the about section of your YouTube page, and I will post your YouTube page in all of the descriptions of this so that people can find it easily.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Of course.
This was awesome.
Yeah, it absolutely was, Jake. For the last, I don't know, however long it was ago I reached out to you, I've been so excited to do this and to have this talk. And for people that are listening, Jake and I have been talking, and we've been holding off going into the details so that we could do this live with all of you. So thank you, Jake, for being here. Thank you, everyone, for being here with us. I want to ask you as the listener, what are you going to do with this information? What are you going to do with this insight? How are you going to choose what you're going to do in your life moving forward? And who do you know in your life who needs to hear this story? Because I think everyone needs to, which is why I'm doing this.
Thank you so much.
So I encourage you, share it around, share it with people, because there is so much goodness that's coming from you, Jake. There's so much goodness that will continue to come from you in your life, and this is really just the beginning of it.
Thank you.
So
thank you, Jordan.
I guess this is the announcement for tomorrow. We're doing a live Ask Me Anything. It'll be on Jacob's YouTube channel. If people know what Reddit is, it's an Ask Me Anything on Reddit. We're going to be doing 3 hours of live interviews, 1.5 hours starting at 12 p.m. Eastern time, and then 1.5 hours at 8 p.m. Eastern time. So that's going to be fantastic. It's going to be exciting. If you have questions, make sure you tune in.
Yeah, can't wait.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. And did you have anything last that you wanted to say, Jake?
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in, and thank you for having me. And, just keep hope alive. Whatever you're going through, you can get through it.